Today I want to walk through the one strategy being used by apps to make tens of thousands of dollars a month and show you exactly how you can apply this strategy to your own app to start getting customers and turn it into an actual business. This strategy is called the theory of constraints, and it's an old school management consultant theory that basically applies to any type of business, and that includes software and apps. I'll walk through what the theory of constraints is, how to identify the area that you need to focus on in your app business, and then how to apply this theory to your own app that you're building in order to start getting your first customers and scale it into a business. If you don't know me, my name is Chris, and for the last 15 years I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design. And with that said, let's get straight into the theory of constraints and break it down step by step.
Build great product. Build great product.
So let's go through the theory of constraints. I'm going to go through what it is, how you can apply it to your funnel, the mistake that people usually make, and how to correct that mistake, and then also how you start doing this if you're just starting off building your app, and then how to actually use this to identify the next thing to work on in your app business so that you can basically use this framework to build the right version of your app, but not only build it, but to start actually building interest for it and getting customers even before you finish building your MVP. And that's really the power of thinking in this kind of strategy. And this is a strategy that applies to any sort of business and really is like an old school kind of management consultant theory. So it's called the theory of constraints, and how it basically works is this. If you imagine like an example business here, you have your number of leads coming into the business, which is this number, this large kind of box here. You have the amount of sales that you can actually do, the sales capacity of your team. So maybe you have one sales rep here and you have like 10,000 people coming in. So 10,000 potential customers goes into one sales rep. And then you have next and this is like a basic kind of process, step-by-step process for a business, or like a basic funnel for a business. You have leads, they then go into sales, and they then go into fulfillment, and then that equals the money that you're getting out at the end of it. And so the fulfillment capacity here is like how much you can actually fulfill the number of sales that are coming through. So say you have like 10 service staff here. If you look at this kind of business setup, this is only ever going to equal the same amount of revenue as the capacity you have at the smallest point. And so the theory of constraints is all about identifying the constraint in your business, in what you're trying to build, and then focusing as much an attention and effort as you can just on fixing the constraint here rather than anything else. If I increase the fulfillment ability of my team, you're still not going to get any more revenue out of the back of this because you're not able to sell enough people. You don't have enough sales reps here to actually sell enough people or speak to enough people if they're trying to sell the service in this example. So that's pretty abstract and kind of conceptual. How does this apply to an actual app business? So let's apply it to the funnel for an app business. So let's put this as an app funnel. So this is something that you might recognize if you are thinking about building apps, or you've built apps before, you've done anything in business before. Basically a basic funnel, like customers go from top to bottom. They come in at this point, and then at each point there's like a certain percentage less people that are going to get through. So at the top you have your interest here, which is like audience, content, ads, marketing, basically the attention of people and the interest that they have to actually find out more information or sign up for your service or your app in this example. You have the sign up step, which is like how many people go to your website, your landing page, your app store listing, and actually click download or sign up to this app. You then have the conversion step, which is where people actually pay for your product. So generally for apps, this might be either it's like a sales process, like a sales call for like a B2B or like enterprise piece of software, or it will be like an onboarding flow if you're using more of like a consumer app. So those would be like the screens that you go through as you sign up for the app. So you sign up, you create your account, and then you go through a couple of steps saying, who are you? Why do you want to use this app? What are you looking to achieve? And then you'll get a paywall at the end of that, which will ask you to basically sign up and pay for the app. A lot of the time you might be able to continue on a free trial at that point, but generally there always should be like a paywall or a sign up or a subscribe like option at that point. And a certain percentage of the people who get through to that step will then sign up and actually go through to use your app, which is the fulfillment part of this. So this mirrors this business setup where you have leads, you then have sales, you then have the fulfillment, and then that equals revenue out of the end of it. So how do we apply this to our app when we're thinking about the theory of constraints? Well, the output of the system of your business, which is basically revenue here, so the revenue is only ever going to equal the largest point of your funnel. And when you start your business, your funnel basically is 0 across the board. Every single part of this, if I'm starting building an app today and I don't have an audience and I'm building from scratch and I'm doing everything myself, then the amount of interest that you will have for it will be 0, your signups will be 0, the conversion is 0, and you don't actually have an app either, so that is also 0 at the bottom. But here's the mistake that most people make, is that we spend all the time on building our app at the bottom, on building the perfect product, this perfect app idea that we have in our head. And this is what loads of people do, and this is something that I've done before as well. And what I want to try and illustrate here is that even if you build the perfect product, you build the perfect onboarding flow, and you build the perfect landing page or website, 100% of 0 is still 0. So if you have no interest, no people actually coming in to seeing your website or seeing your app or signing up for anything, then 100% of that is still going to be 0. And that is why a lot of businesses get no customers when they launch, because they spend all this time building something that is perfect, an incredible fulfillment system, an incredible fulfillment mechanism in this app that they've created, which can fulfill this service, this solution to thousands of people. And actually nobody is coming into it because they haven't spent any effort on any other parts of the system as a business. Why you shouldn't spend time on anything other than the constraint is, imagine you're building an app and your development team is waiting on designs. The design process is the constraint. So speeding up coding, or like improving the capacity that you can for coding or hiring more developers, isn't going to fix that design bottleneck. It's just going to mean more developers who don't have anything to do. And so if you fix that one part of your business, of your system, it opens up everything else. And why am I saying this? Is because the first constraint is always leads and interest. The first constraint is always this step here. The first part of the funnel, your interest from audience, content, ads, marketing, communities, all of those places. And so how do we actually solve this? How do we stop ourselves from making this mistake? If you have an app idea and you're thinking, this is a good app idea, I think it can turn into a business, what should I do next? Basically, what I would recommend is, once you have your idea, you should start at the top. And that is this interest part here. Focus on this, because this is going to give you the most amount of return when you start off, and then you can start focusing on the other areas. So all you need to start is actually not even a real app. This is just an idea at this point. This is like not even an app. You don't need an MVP. You don't actually need an app to get started, which is the crazy thing with this, is you can get started with just an idea, a little bit of confidence and research that it will work, or that people might want to pay for this, and a genuine interest in solving this problem personally. If you have an interest in doing it, or you know this deeply, then this is going to work really well for you. This is what helps you create content without burning out. So having a genuine interest in solving the problem means you can build interest without burning out. And that is why most people who have an app idea, want to get started, want to turn it into a business, why most people kind of fail at the first hurdle here, which is generating interest, doing the marketing, getting a bit of traction around it, getting a bit of attention around the thing that they want to build, is because they don't really have an interest in what they're building or in anything about that kind of subject. They just want to kind of build an app idea. And so that's why the best apps, and I put this down here as well, so the best app businesses are built by people who care deeply about a certain problem or an industry or a niche. And that means that if you are interested in something, if you do have some level of expertise in something, and you can come up with an idea and have some confidence that it can work, then you can get started building your interest straight away. Started building that audience straight away. If you have no app, how do you generate interest? That's the next question. Quick break in the episode to talk about my community for people who are building apps with AI and want to actually launch their app and get real customers. It's called the AI App Builders Academy. So if you're building an AI app with Bolt or Lovable or Cursor or any of these AI tools, and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then this is the community for you. Inside, you'll get access to a community of other builders builders, as well as my 30-day app course, helping you go from idea to app to a profitable launch in just 30 days. You'll also get access to weekly calls with live workshops and training, as well as all of my startup frameworks and resources, and 24/7 support from the community to help you answer any questions or problems you're having with building and launching your AI app. So if you're building an app with AI and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then head over to school.com/AI apps to find out more. I'll see you there. So I have an app idea, I haven't built it yet, so how do I actually start building some interest and some audience and some attention around this idea that I want to create if I want to turn it into a business? Here's how to start building interest. Once you have your idea, is just posting content about it, getting people to follow your journey, building your MVP, engaging in communities around this subject and niche, finding ways to get attention, and just like genuinely helping people solve the problem. A really common way that a lot of startups and apps emerge is that they emerge from this kind of level here of like people who either ran service businesses or they just genuinely wanted to help people and solve the problem that they knew that loads of people were facing. And then that actually then turned into an app. And that leads me onto the second point here. And so I just changed this. But the goal here basically is to be able to start generating interest just from an idea that you care about. So you don't need to build your app first. You can actually start generating interest just around this idea and then iterate on your idea as you build interest. What you're going to learn from people is as you start kind of sharing your journey, as you start talking to people who have this problem that you want to solve, other people doing either similar stuff to you or wanting to learn the same stuff as you, you'll figure out like what people are looking for, what the most valuable thing would be, what the pain points of people are, and where people are getting frustrated. And that will give you a really clear idea of how to shape your MVP. Basically, your MVP is going to be based on all of this feedback that you're getting from people in your community, in your audience, as you're starting to talk about the thing that you care about and generate interest around it. You're then going to have people start asking for stuff. You're going to propose ideas to other people, and then that's going to inform like what you should build in your MVP. So this is why you shouldn't build the perfect product, what you think is the perfect product to start off with, because what you think is the perfect product or the perfect app is not really the perfect app. What is the perfect app is the app that is built on all of this feedback and information from people as you're focusing on this first constraint that you have in your business, and the first constraint being generating some interest and attention around the idea that you're building. So now we've got some interest around our app idea and what we're actually building, and we've figured out that this is a valuable problem for people to solve. We've talked to a lot of people. We've built a bit of an audience or a following around this subject or this problem that we're trying to solve, and we're kind of sharing our journey and like figuring this stuff out or building the MVP. You might not have built anything at this point, which is completely fine. We just want to get a bit of attention around helping people like solve this problem that we're trying to solve with our app. The next step here is really first to prove the demand for your idea, and then the next step is to actually build your MVP to fulfill the interest that you have generated for it. So let's say, so the first step here, or what I would do, is to build a waitlist for your idea. And this is what I've done through my YouTube channel for my community and for my upcoming app Canvas, was basically just to build a waitlist to send people to from the interest that you've generated, to get them to sign up, to express that they're interested in actually using the thing that you're building. And this is a really great first indicator that you're actually building the right thing, that people are going to want this and that they're actually going to sign up and pay for it. And so basically what we're going to do is create a waitlist website. So just a simple website with a form on that people can sign up. We add that as like our link in our bio. We put links to that across all of our profiles. And you might want to kind of like more gently send people there from posts or content or that sort of stuff. And then if you do get a certain number of people signing up, that's basically the green light to then continue to the next step, which is your app MVP. So this like conversion and fulfillment is basically your app MVP. And if this doesn't work, what we want to do is go from sign up back to interest again, is to create a new product until you get something that can carry on down this path. So we build some attention, we generate some interest, we build up an audience, maybe we're posting content about an idea. So we then have an idea for a product or an app, we create a waitlist website to send people to. We talk about that app and that idea that we're building, send people to the waitlist, sign up. If people sign up from that, then that's a good indication that people are going to want that product. Even if it's just a few people off the back of like 10 or 20 people that you're kind of building as an audience in the really early stages, we just want to validate that a significant percentage of the people that we're building this for actually want to use this product that we're building, want to use this app that we're building. And then once we've got a certain number of people that we're happy with on our waitlist, we can then continue to this conversion and fulfillment step, which is our app MVP. Basically, we're then going to build the app MVP. We're going to send people from our waitlist into our app, so into the sign up flow, into the paywall, so that they can sign up for the app, pay for our app, and then actually start using it. And chances are this will be super low to start off with, so this might be like 2 people actually sign up for your app and then 1 person continues to use it. And I'm going to change this to build and launch the app MVP, because we're going to have to build it and then we're going to launch it. And you can continue building up more interest and more audience and more attention basically whilst you're actually building, and that works really good as like a journey to kind of get people to follow along with you actually building something, and you can iterate on that based on the feedback and the information that you're getting from people as they kind of engage with your content. The MVP goal is to make something that's not perfect, but make something usable. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and your funnel is going to look like this to start off with. It's going to have like more interest at the top, and then your sign up and your conversion and your fulfillment is going to be really, really small. But that's okay, because then we get on to actually applying this theory of constraints into our app business. Now that we've got some interest, we've got an MVP, we've launched it, we might have 1 or 2 paying users of that app. And what we do next is basically to just focus on the bottleneck. So we want to focus on the bottleneck, the area of our business that is going to unlock the most amount of growth. So you might not have the perfect product. So we're not going to have the perfect product. This will be just like, I'm just going to put this down here because I think this is good to know. This is not the perfect product. This is your app. So your app won't be perfect. So the conversion is not going to be perfect. Your onboarding flow is not going to be perfect. Your sign up page is not going to be perfect. This would be like so this is like your website or landing page, and then conversion is like paywall basically, or the onboarding flow. And what we want to do is we want to focus on the area that's going to give us the biggest impact, that's going to unlock the most growth. So now we've generated like this interest up here. Okay, we've got people coming through. So we've got people coming through to the website and signing up, but our sign up percentage is only 5%. So let's, instead of, again, this is like a really common mistake, is that people focus too much on the app and the features in the app rather than focusing on the other areas of the business to actually grow this app into a business and a product that will be incredible like in the long run. Is that if you, at this point, and this is where the theory of constraints comes in, at this point, if you focus on this, it won't actually have that much impact, because the problem is actually higher up here. If I increase the conversion for people like continuing to use the app, and I've only got 2 users in my app, then that's just 2 users who keep using the app. What I actually need to do is to focus on the earlier steps here. So if I open up the sign up, for example, that increases everything across the board. It may not do it like exactly like that. It will be more like this. That's going to increase everything up. And you might then realize that actually you have an issue with your paywall, or then you have an issue with fulfillment and you need to fix that. But basically, the whole purpose of the theory of constraints is to understand that you should always focus on the constraint or the bottleneck in the business that you're building, whether that's an app business or a service business or whatever it is, in order to grow it. And that is often not the actual app that you're building. It's the rest of the business. If you really want to get into like detail of the theory of constraints here, there's this 5-step process of basically like how you go through this loop of identifying the constraint and then unlocking that constraint so that you can grow, and then basically identifying the next constraint and doing the same thing kind of over and over and over again. And it's basically these 5 steps. So it's like basically find the bottleneck first, and then improve what you have rather than redoing something. So improve what you have always before like redoing it or hiring anyone. A really common thing that happens as well is people start hiring staff for their company when they don't have their processes or systems kind of working properly, and you just end up kind of like scaling inefficient processes and something that could have actually been done with less people had you just spent time improving it. Align, which is to basically like reduce the things to the level of the constraint. So let's say, for example, we're sending like hundreds of thousands of people through to sign up for our app. They're all signing up and they're all converting, they're all paying for the product, or most of them are, and then they get into the app. The actual service of fulfilling that thing for the app just means that loads and loads of people are only paying for 1 month and then they're cancelling their subscription. What we then want to focus on is we then want to focus on the experience in the app to reduce that churn rate, to improve retention before we actually start like sending more and more traffic there. Because all we're doing when we're sending more and more traffic, more and more people, more and more interest to this app is we're just getting customers who pay for it and then they leave and then they'll actually never come back again. So that is when you would focus on your fulfillment or on any of the other parts if they're broken, basically. So we want to align things with the level of the constraint. Then elevate, which is basically to rework the constraint, higher or change it completely. So to do something a bit more drastic to actually unlock that constraint a lot more than you would if you were just improving it, and then you repeat that process and you go back round to identifying the constraint again and then moving through this step-by-step flow. And so that is the theory of constraints and how to apply it to your app business. Hopefully that's all made sense and I haven't just like rambled through a load of stuff there that doesn't make any sense. Really, the kind of main takeaway from going through this theory so that you can understand how to build an app and actually grow it into a business is that the first constraint is interest and attention. Interest and attention is always the first constraint, and that you should then, once you've built that interest and attention through content, marketing, communities, any of that sort of stuff, only once you've built that interest can you then think about, okay, well, we need to gauge whether people are going to pay for this idea, and we then need to build the MVP. Now, you can be building the MVP and doing that alongside actually building the interest in the audience to start off with, but I would always recommend to start off with, you've got to focus on that first constraint, and that is building up interest and audience around the idea that you want to create. So that was my breakdown of the theory of constraints and how you can apply it to your app and your app business in order to grow your app and actually get real paying customers instead of spending loads and loads of time building the perfect product, and actually just focusing on the thing which is going to make a real impact to start off with, which is building attention and interest around the idea, and then just creating a very, very quick and simple MVP and waitlist that you can get out to people and then start iterating on after you've started to get paying customers. If you have any questions on anything, just let me know in the comments down below, and as usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are building an app or you have an idea that you want to turn into an app and start building it, then you can go over to my community helping people do just that over at school.com/AI apps. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.
Build great products. Build great products.